guardian of Silver Lake. Darkness covered the city like a soft blanket. The pale lights of street lamps danced on the wet pavement. Tonight, as you close your tired eyes, I want to take you to another place. This is a place where time moves slower, where worries blow away like leaves in the wind. Leo's feet moved slowly on the stone path. His backpack felt heavy with all the tiredness from the city. He had run away from the concrete forest, from the never-sleeping electronic devices and the constant noise of traffic. What brought him here, to the quiet shores of Silver Lake, was his grandfather's last wish and a strange emptiness inside him. The road went left and right between thick trees. Moonlight came through the pine needles and made a silver carpet on the ground. With every step, he smelled mud and wet moss. This smell was so different from the exhaust and asphalt smell of the city. For the first time, he felt his lungs were truly full. "A little more," he said to himself. He remembered the instructions from his grandfather's letter. After you leave the main road, you will see 3 big sycamore trees. The one in the middle has a heart-shaped mark on its trunk. Turn left there. You will start to hear the lake. And yes, the 3 sycamores were there. The one in the middle really had a heart-shaped hole in its trunk. It was like the tree still carried a love from centuries ago. Leo turned left, and then he heard it. From far away came a soft, rhythmic sound. It wasn't the sound of waves hitting the shore. It was more like an ancient whisper of water over stones. Leo's shoulders dropped a little without him noticing. He stopped clenching his jaw. His body, always on high alert in the city, was finally relaxing. The road opened into a clearing, and Leo stopped, his breath taken away. In front of him, shining in the moonlight, was a huge lake. The water was so calm that the stars and the full moon seemed to have fallen from the sky and were now shining from the bottom. The lake was surrounded by dark green pine and fir trees. From far away, an owl hooted, and then a deep silence fell again. The cabin from the letter was right at the edge of the lake. The wood had taken on a silvery color from time and weather. Vines and moss hung from the roof, making it look like part of nature. The windows glowed with a warm orange light. "Is someone inside?" Leo wondered, surprised. Months had passed since his grandfather left him the cabin. No one should be here. He slowly walked to the door. The doorknob felt smooth and cold in his hand. He turned it, and the door opened quietly. Inside, it was cozy and warm compared to the cool air outside. A fire crackled in the wood stove, making dancing shadows on the walls. The air smelled of a mix of sea buckthorn leaves and old books. The furniture was simple but strong. A sofa, a table, a bookshelf full of books. And on the table, 2 cups of hot tea were waiting. "Welcome, Leo." The voice came from the chair facing the sofa. Leo looked around, his heart beating fast. The chair turned around slowly. It was an old man. His face had deep lines like the bark of the old sycamore, but his eyes were as clear and young as the lake's water. "My name is Elias," said the old man. his voice matching the crackle of the fire. "I have been the guardian of Silver Lake for many years. I knew you were coming." Leo was frozen in the doorway. "How did my grandfather tell you about me?" Elias smiled a little. "Sometimes, but mostly the lake tells me. Water carries the reflection of everything, Leo. The past, the present, and sometimes the future." He took a sip from his cup. "Your feet are wet. Come, sit. Don't let your tea get cold." Leo felt his instincts telling him to run. Everything he learned in the city said to be careful with strangers and surprises. But his body was so hungry for warmth and comfort. He walked in slowly, put his backpack down, and sat in the chair. Elias showed him. He took the cup. The steam hit his face. The tea smelled of mint, chamomile, and a light flower he didn't know. "Drink," said Elias. "It will take away the tiredness from your journey." Leo took a sip. The warmth spread down his chest and all the way to his fingertips. It was as if something frozen was slowly melting. "Grandfather, he was very happy here, wasn't he?" Leo asked, his voice getting lost in the tea's steam. "Yes," Elias answered, his eyes lost in the fire. "But happiness here is not like you think in the city. Here, happiness is that soft vibration you feel under your feet when you walk on a path. It is the cool feeling of morning fog touching your skin. It is a bird's song just before you notice it. It is quiet, deep, and lasting." Leo tried to understand these words. In the city, happiness came from success, from buying things, from getting somewhere. It was always something to reach, to run after. Here, the definition was passive. It was just about being. "How long will you stay?" Elias asked. Leo shrugged. "I don't know. I took leave from work. A month maybe more." In truth, his mind was so confused that he thought about never going back. "A month," Elias said quietly, nodding. "That is nothing for Silver Lake, but for a person that can change many things." Suddenly, he looked outside. "Come, let me show you the lake for the first time. Bring your tea." Leo followed the old man outside. The night air felt cool and fresh on his face. Elias walked toward the wooden dock. His steps made a solid sound on the soft wood. The lake was even closer now. The water's edge lightly kissed the shore with small waves. "Look," said Elias, pointing to the water. "Everything slows down here. Your worries, your thoughts, your rush, they all disappear in the deep water. This is not a place to remember, but a place to forget and to start again." Leo looked at the lake. The moon's reflection made a long, bright path on the water. It was as if the lake was offering a passage to take him to eternity. "Tomorrow," Elias continued, "I will start teaching you the language of the forest, the whispers of the trees, the songs of the streams, the heartbeat of the earth. But for now, just listen." Leo closed his eyes, and then he heard it. The sound of the water, the rustle of leaves, the call of a frog in the distance, the wind whistling through the pine needles. They all came together to make a symphony he had never heard in the city. It was a lullaby. It had been playing here for centuries, for all tired souls. When he opened his eyes, Elias was not beside him. The old man was walking quietly back to the cabin, leaving his last words in the air. "You can stay on the dock if you want. The stars are especially bright tonight. They will be waiting for you too." Leo sat on the edge of the dock and let his feet hang. The cool mist of the lake touched his legs. He looked up at the sky. In the city, he had never seen so many stars. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a pale river of light. Each star seemed to tell a little story, stories of lost loves, forgotten wishes, unfinished journeys. Leo imagined his grandfather sitting on this same dock, looking at these same stars. What wishes had he made? What losses had he let go into these waters? Slowly, the sounds of the city began to disappear from his mind. Meetings, emails, traffic, social media notifications, they all melted away into the dark waters of the lake. In their place came the rhythmic sound of the water and the sound of his own slowing breath.
His eyes grew heavy. He leaned his back against a vertical plank of the dock. The sky seemed to be pulling into itself, the stars mixing together. A last thought flashed in his mind. Maybe what I was looking for was always here. Maybe I didn't need to run away. I just needed to stop. And Leo, for the first time in years, let himself fall asleep, sure that no alarm would ring, no responsibility would wait for him. He was covered by the gentle lullaby of the silver lake and the ancient stars. As he fell asleep, there was a light movement in the lake's water. It was as if the water was opening the first page of a new story, adding a new guest to its records. Elias watched from the cabin window and smiled slightly. "Good night, Leo," he whispered to the window. "May your dreams take you to the places you have forgotten." Outside, the forest took a deep breath, and all the sounds joined together in perfect sleep silence. Leo woke up in an unfamiliar silence. When he opened his eyes, he saw the light falling in a soft, scattered way. The ceiling was made of tightly stacked wooden beams, and tiny dust particles danced in the air between them. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he saw the bright blue glow outside the bedroom window and remembered everything. Silver Lake. He had slept in a wooden bed in the cabin. The wool blanket on top of him was heavy, but spread warmth wherever it touched. The air smelled of the faint scent of fading alder wood from the stove, and something like fresh bread. The growling of his stomach reminded him he hadn't eaten anything last night. He got out of bed. The wooden floor felt cool under his feet. He walked to the window and looked outside, his breath taken away. The lake was covered with morning fog. A thick white blanket moved slowly over the water, touching the lower parts of the trees and leaving their tops like islands above the mist. The air was clear as crystal, and every pine needle sparkled with dewdrops. The silence was very different from the morning noise of the city. Here, silence was not an emptiness, it was a presence. It was full. His stomach growled again. He walked toward the small kitchen where the smell was coming from. On the table, there was a loaf of fresh bread, a piece of white cheese, and a jar of blackberry jam. Next to it was a note, written in careful handwriting. "Good morning, Leo. I am on my morning walk. Please eat your breakfast. You will need your strength. Elias." As Leo cut the bread with a knife, he thought about last night. How had the old man welcomed him so warmly? Why was he here? Questions turned in his mind, but something didn't worry him. In Elias, he felt none of the hidden plans or judgments he felt from people in the city. Elias, like the lake or the forest, just was. After finishing breakfast, he took the thick sweater hanging by the door and went outside. The early morning air was cool enough to lightly burn his lungs. He moved slowly through the fog, walking toward the dock. As he got closer to the water, new sounds came from within the fog. The water kissing the shore, a bird flapping its wings, the rhythmic knocking of a woodpecker in the distance. It was as if the forest was slowly waking up. When he reached the end of the dock, he saw the fog was clearing a little. Right on the surface of the water, large green lily pads were floating. Some had purple-pink flowers, still in bud. Just then, a green heron took off from the water's edge. Its long, elegant wings opened silently in the air, and it disappeared behind the curtain of fog. Beautiful, isn't it? Leo turned toward the voice. Elias appeared from within the forest, as if born from the forest itself. He had a long, carved walking stick in his hand. His face had a lively pink color, maybe from the morning cool, or maybe from something else.
"Amazing," Leo answered honestly. "There's nothing like this in the city. There, mornings start with noise." Elias came and stood on the dock beside him. "Every place has its own music," he said. "The music here is more in harmony with the music inside you. A slower tempo, the tempo of your heartbeat, your breathing." Together, they watched the fog slowly disappear. As the sun rose behind the eastern hills, golden rays began to pierce the fog curtain. The fog separated into silver threads, swirled upward, and finally, under a bright blue sky, a sapphire-colored lake appeared. "Today," Elias said, turning, "I want to give you your first lesson. But this won't be a lesson like in books. We will just walk, and you will learn to listen to the world under your feet." Elias left the dock and turned onto the narrow path along the lake shore. Leo followed him. The path went between mossy rocks and old tree roots. Elias hardly used his walking stick, just lightly touched the ground with it, as if in constant contact with the earth. "Slow down, Leo," said Elias without looking back. "Don't sync your steps with mine. Find your own rhythm." Leo tried to slow down.
When walking in the city, there was always the rush to get somewhere. His steps were automatic, fast, and goal-oriented. Here, walking seemed like a purpose in itself, independent of a destination. After a few minutes, Elias stopped. He raised his hand to stop Leo, too. "Now," he whispered, "just listen, not with your ears, with your whole body." Leo closed his eyes. At first, he only heard his own breathing. Then, slowly, other sounds appeared. A light rustle in the leaves above him, the constant trickle of a stream flowing in the distance, an almost undetectable vibration from under the ground, from the tiny movements of worms and insects, and the strangest thing, a deep, low-frequency hum between the trees. "There," Elias said, his voice still a whisper, "that is the forest breathing, just like you. Now, open your eyes and look, but not just in front of you, to the sides, up, down. Look at the details." Leo opened his eyes. Elias pointed to a tree trunk. "Look, who has lived here?" Leo came closer and examined the marks on the trunk. Small holes, scratches, pieces of peeled bark. "Insects?" he asked hesitantly. "Yes, but look at this." Elias showed a thin, almost invisible thread right under the bark with his hand. "A spider made its morning web here. Dewdrops have decorated it with tiny pearls. And here," he bent down and pointed to the ground, "these tracks." On the ground there were tiny three-toed tracks. A bird? A jay, looking for insects for breakfast. Elias stood up. "Everything tells a story, Leo. The earth, the trees, the water, they all say something. You just need to understand their language. This language is not made of words, but of tracks, sounds, and feelings." They continued walking. Elias sometimes stopped to show him a plant, telling its name and what it was good for, how nettle had healing properties, which mushrooms you could eat and which to stay away from, how mint leaves by the stream gave a fresh smell when you crushed them. Leo was amazed by the old man's wisdom. This knowledge wasn't like what they taught in schools. Its roots were deep, fed by experience and observation. It was as if Elias was part of the forest and knew its secrets. After a while, they sat on a flat rock by the stream. Elias took 2 apples from his bag and handed one to Leo. "Thank you," Leo said. He bit into it. The apple was juicy and tart, very different from the tasteless fruits he ate in the city. "Your grandfather," Elias began, looking at his own apple, "stumbled a lot when he first came, like everyone who comes from the city. He tripped, always thought he was missing something. His mind was still there." Leo thought about his grandfather. He always remembered him as a calm, wise man. It was hard to imagine that he might have been as lost as Leo once. "What happened to him?" he asked. "Time," Elias said simply, "and patience. Here, everything happens in its own time. A tree doesn't hurry to grow. A stream doesn't rush to flow. The seasons don't force change. You must do the same. Don't hurry. Just be." Leo felt these words inside him. Life in the city was a constant race, a performance. Here, there was no performance. There was only existence. "And you?" Leo gathered courage to ask. "How did you come here? Why did you become a guardian?" Elias's eyes looked far away, beyond the lake. A sweet sadness appeared on his face. "That," he said softly, "is a longer story, and every story waits for the right time to be told. Not now. Now is the time for the beginning of your story." The sun was right above them now, and its warmth went into his bones. Elias stood up. "Time to go back. The shade gets less at noon, and you need to rest. The first day is always the most tiring, because it's not just your body that travels, your soul travels too." The way back was the same path, but Leo saw everything differently. Now he didn't just see trees and rocks. He saw their stories, their connections, their lives. He noticed that the moss on a tree trunk showed which side was north. From the bird songs, he began to understand which types were nearby. When they reached the cabin, Leo felt exhausted, but strangely at peace. It was like after a long, good massage. Not his muscles, but his mind was relaxed. "The afternoon is yours," said Elias at the door. "You can look at the books in the library if you want. You can sleep. You can just sit and watch the lake. Doing nothing is also something to do. Remember." Leo went inside. He went to the bookshelf. The shelves were filled with books with faded covers and yellowed pages. Natural history, poetry, astronomy, local legends. They were his grandfather's books. He pulled one out randomly. On the inside page there was a note in his grandfather's handwriting. "Saw a fox today. It looked at me, and I looked at it. For a moment I felt there was no difference between us." July 1998. Leo took the book and sat on the sofa. He looked out the window, watching the lights playing on the lake. His thoughts were no longer spinning in the city's endless cycle. They moved more slowly, more calmly, about his grandfather, Elias, the fox, and where his own place was. His eyelids grew heavy. He put the book beside him and lay down on the sofa. From outside came the rustle of leaves and the sound of the water. This time, consciously, he let himself go into this sound. In the city, he always thought about the next thing. Here, there was only now. And now was a perfect moment to sleep. Leo woke up on the sofa. The room was filled with a golden twilight. The sun was nearing the west, and the rays coming through the window made warm stripes that danced with dust particles. The first thing he noticed when he woke up was the strange clarity in his mind. There was no heavy cloud of worry and to-do list falling on him as soon as he woke up, like in the city. There was just a quiet, calm awareness. His stomach growled a little. The afternoon nap had pulled him in longer than he thought. He stood up, stretched, and walked to the kitchen. On the table, there was another note from Elias and a simple dinner preparation: a bowl of vegetable soup, still warm as if kept on the stove, some cheese, and an apple. The note said, "I'm going for an evening walk. You can come too if you want. Meeting point, the lily pad cove from this morning." Leo ate his meal quickly. The soup warmed him inside and gave him energy. When he went outside, the air was starting to get cool. The evening was slowly taking the day's bright colors, adding blue and purple tones to everything. The lake was turning from bright blue to a deeper, more serious indigo. When he reached the lily pad cove, he found Elias at the end of the dock, standing still, looking at the water. He approached quietly. "Sunset," said Elias, as if he had heard Leo coming without turning around. "The most honest time of the day. Everything we hide during the day comes out in this light. Even the lake reveals its secrets a little more." Leo stood beside him. The sky was a magnificent mix of orange, pink, and purple. These colors reflected on the lake's surface like a mirror, almost blurring the lines separating water and sky. "What secrets does the lake hide?" Leo asked curiously. Elias smiled slightly. Many things. Lost items, forgotten wishes, memories that time couldn't erase. Sometimes old things get caught in fishing nets. Sometimes you just see a shadow under the water, moving, then disappearing. Those are not ghosts of the past, just their echoes." They watched the sunset in silence for a while. As the sun went below the horizon, a silence fell over the forest. The birds' songs stopped, the wind died down. It was as if the world was holding its breath, respecting this moment of transition. "Come," Elias said, suddenly, turning. "I'll show you the heart of the lake." Instead of leaving the dock, Elias started walking along the shore in a direction they hadn't gone before. The path was a bit rougher, winding between old rocks. Finally, behind a rocky outcrop, they reached a hidden cove. This place was like a small circular pool, separated from the main lake by a stone arch. The water here was even calmer, like a black mirror. It was surrounded by thick willow trees, their branches hanging down to the water. The air smelled of earth and a velvety flower scent. "This," whispered Elias, as if speaking loudly would be disrespectful, "is the heart of Silver Lake. The water comes here from underground springs. It is fresh, cold, and ancient. Maybe it's the water of the first snow that melted on these mountains." Leo looked at the water. It was so clear he could see the white pebbles at the bottom and tiny schools of silver fish swimming among them. In the middle of the water rose a dark, moss-covered stone. "That stone," Elias said, "is the guardian stone. It has been here for centuries. Legend says the first guardian placed it here and made a connection with the lake's spirit. Whoever is the guardian learns to sit here and listen. They feel the lake's pulse, its heartbeat." "Does it really have a heartbeat?" Leo asked, mesmerized.
"Of course it does," Elias said softly. "Everything has a rhythm. The planet, the seas, the forest, and this lake. When you are calm enough, you can feel it in your palms, in the soles of your feet. It's a light, strong beat from under the water. It tries to match your own." Elias sat at the edge of the water and took off his shoes. He took off his socks, too, and put his feet in the water. "Try it." Leo hesitated. The water looked icy in the evening cool, but Elias's invitation had an undeniable sincerity. He sat down too, took off his shoes, and slowly touched the water with his feet. The first touch was a sharp cold. He held his breath, but after a few seconds, the cold turned into a refreshing coolness. The water wrapped around his ankles, and then he felt it, a light, regular vibration from under the water. It wasn't a wave, it was more like a subtle but strong beat coming from deeper, from the earth itself, like the pulse of a huge, ancient being. He looked at Elias in amazement. Elias just nodded, his eyes shining. "There, the lake knows you now. It heard your heartbeat. Now you hear its."
They sat, their feet in the water, and listened to that beat. Leo felt his mind completely empty. The city noise, regrets of the past, worries of the future, they all melted away in front of this regular, primitive vibration. His own breath slowed, his heartbeat calmed, and seemed to match the lake's rhythm. "Here," Elias spoke, his voice mixing with the water's whisper. "Time is circular. It is born, grows, dies, and is born again. Every end is a beginning. Every loss is part of a cycle. Your grandfather understood that. When he first came, he had lost a lot. But here, he realized that the things he lost had actually transformed, had joined the lake's cycle. That comforted him." Leo thought about his grandfather's losses. He had lost his wife, Leo's grandmother, at a young age. Leo always knew that, but he had never understood that behind his grandfather's calmness lay such deep acceptance. "Are you afraid of losing?" Elias asked suddenly, looking at Leo. Leo was startled by the directness of the question. He thought about his job in the city, his relationships, his inner ambitions. "Yes," he confessed, as if he didn't know he could say that word so easily. "Everything, losing control." "There is no control here. There is only harmony. You don't try to control, you harmonize with the flow. Like the fish in this water, they don't control the water, they move within it. That makes them free." The sun had completely set now. The first stars began to twinkle in the dark blue sky. Elias pulled his feet out of the water. "That's enough for a first lesson. Let's go back now. The knight likes to be alone at the guardian stone." On the way back, Leo was quiet. Inside, he still felt the water's vibration. In his palms, there was a light tingling. When they got close to the cabin, Elias stopped.
"Today I came to ask you for something," he said in a serious tone. "What is it?" asked Leo. "Tomorrow morning, be here before sunrise. Bring your sweater. I'll show you the lake waking up. But this is not something you'll see just with your eyes. You'll witness it with your whole being." "Of course," Leo answered immediately, a strange excitement rising inside him. "I'll come." Elias nodded, looking pleased. "Then good night, Leo. May your dreams be clear." Leo went into the cabin, but he wasn't sleepy. His mind was full of the day's experiences. He went to the bookshelf and took a book of poetry. He opened a page randomly. On the page there was a poem about the lake. His grandfather had underlined some lines. "And while the waters talk with the night, they keep time's song in their stone heart. They whisper to listening ears that getting lost is actually being in its most ancient form." Leo sat in the chair by the window. Outside, night had completely fallen. The sky was black velvet covered with countless stars. The lake swallowed these stars whole, leaving only a broken reflection on its surface. He thought about Elias's words, "Are you afraid of losing?" Here, in this silence, the question seemed less scary. Maybe losing, as Elias said, was just a transformation. Maybe what he feared in the city wasn't losing, but changing, losing his status, his identity, his illusion of control. He lit a candle and continued reading the book, but the words couldn't compete with the lake's sound. After a while, he put the book down and just sat watching outside. At that moment, he saw a faint phosphorescent glow on the lake. A greenish, pale shimmer spread in waves over the water's surface and then went out. Mesmerized, he approached the window. A minute later, another glow appeared, farther away. "Water plants," he whispered to himself in awe. Or maybe the lake's dreams. That night, Leo couldn't sleep for a long time. But this wasn't the restless, anxious sleeplessness he had in the city. This was a state of calm wakefulness. It was as if he was absorbing everything, digesting the experience. When he lay in bed, he could still feel the water's coolness on his feet and that light vibration in his palms. He closed his eyes and imagined himself underwater, next to the guardian stone, swimming among silver fish. The water wrapped around him, taking all his weight. Above, the broken lights of the stars danced, and he didn't need to breathe, because the water had become his breath. With this thought, he finally fell asleep. In his dream, he was swimming in the lake. Elias stood on the shore, watching him, and they didn't speak. They just knew that the lake's heartbeat was the same. Outside, the night deepened. An owl hooted. A branch broke. The lake, as always, continued to murmur its old song. And Leo could now hear one note of that song. Not the whole thing yet, but one note. It was a beginning. early in the morning, before twilight even lit the horizon, Leo put on his sweater and quietly opened the door to go outside. The air was icy and sharp. The sky was ink blue, and the brightest stars still twinkled. He found Elias at the lily pad cove, standing by the guardian stone. When Leo came beside him, the old man turned and put his finger to his lips for silence. Then they looked at the eastern horizon and waited. The silence was so deep that Leo could hear his own blood pulsing in his ears. But slowly, this sound was replaced by another. It was the birds, the first to wake, their mysterious chirping songs before the horizon lit up. It was the dewdrops falling from the leaves, and finally, a light sigh coming from the depths of the lake, like the day's first breath. When the first light appeared as a pale strip on the horizon, Elias slowly bent down and put his hand in the water. He cupped some water and sprinkled it on his face. "Good morning, Silver Lake," he whispered, and Leo, at that moment, felt the lake truly wake up.
Sunrise was like a ceremony of thawing. That pale strip slowly turned lavender, then into shades of fire. When the light hit the lake's surface, the water came alive, as if thousands of little gold flakes were shimmering. The birds' songs were now a full choir. Life was stirring in every tree, every bush. As Leo stood beside Elias, witnessing this awakening, he felt something strange. It was as if something inside him was waking up too. Inside him, dark corners were lighting up with the dawn. The roots of his worries and rush seemed less threatening in this soft light. After looking at the water for a long time, Elias said, "Every morning is a promise." His voice was still lowered with respect for the morning silence. No matter what the night brought, morning opens a clean page. The lake cleans what sank to its bottom every night. You can do the same. "How?" asked Leo. "By letting go," Elias said simply. He turned and looked at Leo, his eyes reflecting the dawn's glow. "Your grandfather would come here every morning and throw a stone into the water. Before the stone fell, he would give it a thought, a worry he didn't want to carry that day. Then the stone would sink and join the cycle. It was a letting go ceremony for him." Leo thought about doing that. There were many things inside him he wanted to let go. The fear of failure at work, the feeling of being abandoned, the sense of inadequacy. These were invisible stones on his back. "Can I try?" he asked. "Of course, but first you must find the right stone. It should call you." They bent over the pebbles at the edge of the cove. Elias wasn't rushing, just looking. Leo tried to do the same. He picked up a few stones, but none felt right. Then, right at the water's edge, half submerged, he saw a flat, perfectly round, dark gray stone. It had a white, wave-like line on it. He picked it up. It had a perfect weight in his hand, a cold and smooth feeling. "This one," he said. Elias nodded in agreement. Then now whisper to it what you want to let go. Out loud or silently, it doesn't matter. It will hear. Leo hesitated. Then he brought the stone close to his mouth and whispered the thing that came from deepest inside. I let go of fear, the fear that I always have to make the right decision. He threw the stone into the calm waters of the lake. The stone entered the water with a perfect plop sound, made a few rings, and disappeared. At that moment, Leo felt a real weight lift from his shoulders. Maybe it was his imagination, maybe it was real, but the result was the same. He felt lighter. "Good," said Elias. "Now with your empty hand, take what you want from the water." Leo was surprised. "What do you mean?" "Put your hand in the water, open it, and accept whatever comes. Sometimes a feeling comes, sometimes a word, sometimes just coolness. Be open." Leo crouched down and put his right hand into the icy water. He opened his palm and waited. For a moment he felt nothing. Then from the water a warm tingling spread to the center of his palm. It was a strange warmth in the cold water, and in his mind a clear word appeared: patience. He pulled his hand out of the water. His palm was wet and cold, but inside it was the trace of that warmth. "What did you take?" asked Elias. "Patience," whispered Leo. A deep, wise smile appeared on Elias's face. "The lake always gives us what we need. That was the first thing your grandfather took too, patience. That was what kept him here, what transformed him." The sun was fully up now, washing the lake and the forest in golden light. As they walked back to the cabin together, Leo asked Elias to tell him about the times when his grandfather first came here. In the cabin, with freshly brewed tea, Elias began to tell. The tone in his voice carried that special ancient timbre that turns a story into a legend. "Your grandfather, Robert, was in worse shape than you when he first came. The city had almost completely exhausted his soul. He had lost his wife, his job had consumed him. He came here as an escape, maybe as a last refuge. For the first week, he hardly went outside. He just watched the lake from the window. He was afraid." "Afraid of what?" asked Leo. "Of the silence. In the city, silence was a threat. It meant emptiness. Here, silence was everything. It was pulling him in, forcing him to face his own noise. One day he couldn't take it anymore and rushed outside. He wanted to scream, but his scream got lost in the forest's silence, and at that moment he collapsed and cried. He hadn't cried in years." Elias took a sip of his tea. "That's when I found him, sitting under a tree where he cried, shaking. I didn't ask him anything. I just sat beside him. We sat like that for hours. When evening came, he asked me,
"What should I do here?" "Breathe," I said. "Just breathe and listen." And he, like you now, started throwing a stone every morning and taking things from the water. At first, the things he took were always his lacks: peace, calm, meaning. But one morning, when he pulled his hand out of the water, there was a tiny living dragonfly in his palm. Its glass-like wings were wet and shiny. The insect stayed in his palm for a moment, then flew away. Robert started crying again at that moment, but this time not from pain, but from gratitude, because he understood that life, in its most fragile, most temporary form, was still in his palm. He just needed to notice it.
Leo felt his eyes fill with tears. He remembered his grandfather as the patient man who showed him insects and birds every summer. He had never thought that calmness was earned here, needed with such pain. After that, Elias continued, Robert started to transform. He learned the forest's language. He read books. He watched the lake in every season, the dragonflies in summer, the leaves falling into the water in autumn, the ice turning the lake into a crystal plate in winter, the rebirth of everything in spring. And with each cycle, he let go of another part inside him. He began to see loss not as an emptiness, but as a transformation. "So why did he leave?" asked Leo. "Why did he go back to the city?" Elias took a deep breath. Because the time had come to share what he learned. The wisdom here, if not shared, stays buried like treasure. He wanted to carry the peace he found here to the city, especially to you. He wanted to watch you grow, to leave this place to you as an inheritance. This cabin and the lake were his greatest gift to you, but you needed to discover it, to come here in your own way. Leo felt crushed under the weight of this truth. Inheritance wasn't a property, it was an experience, a path. "And you?" Leo gathered courage to ask. "Why are you here? What is your story?" In Elias's eyes was the weight of untold decades. He looked out the window at the lake. "My story," he said slowly, "is as old as this lake. And maybe one day, when the right time comes, I'll tell it. But for now, what you need to know is this. Some souls are born connected to certain places. I was born as the guardian of this lake. I am its protector, its observer, and its memory. When Robert came, I understood he wasn't a guardian. He just needed healing. But you—" He stopped and looked at Leo. "There's a different feeling about you." Leo's heart beat faster. "What kind?" "It's too early to say," said Elias, smiling mysteriously. "But that's not today's lesson. Today I'll show you the memory path around the lake. It was your grandfather's favorite place." In the afternoon, Elias took Leo to a nearly invisible path behind the cabin. This path seemed to completely surround the lake, sometimes coming close to the water, sometimes diving deep into the trees. When you walk on this path, you'll hear a different memory, a different sound with each step.
Your grandfather gave names from important people and moments in his life to this path. See that bend? He called it Clara's Bend. That was his wife's name. There, the most beautiful wildflowers always bloom. Indeed, at that bend, there was a carpet of blue, yellow, and white flowers by the path. And that rock, he called it First Fish Rock, Elias continued, smiling. Here he caught an old trout and released it back into the water. It taught me to see, he said. They kept walking. At each point, Elias told a short story, how Robert meditated by a small waterfall, how he read his books under a giant pine tree, how he watched the stars on a flat stone. Each story helped Leo understand his grandfather better, to see him not just as a family elder, but as a human being who sought his own path, suffered, and healed. The path took them to the other side of the lake, to a beach they hadn't seen before. Here the sand was fine and white, the water a turquoise clarity. This, Elias said, is the New Beginnings Beach. Robert would enter every new season here. He would walk into the water and completely let himself go into it, like shedding old skin and putting on new one, he said. Looking at the beach, Leo felt he needed such a fresh start, too. Maybe here, in this water, he could wash off the dust and tiredness of the city. You can try if you want, Elias said, as if reading Leo's thought. The water will be cold, but it's invigorating. Leo didn't hesitate. He took off his shoes and the sweater on top. In his t-shirt and pants, he started walking into the water. The sand was soft and warm under his feet.
When the water reached his ankles, his knees, his hips, the cold took his breath away, but he continued. When it came to his chest, his neck, he took a deep breath and let himself fall forward into the water. The cold wrapped around his body like a shock wave. For a moment he froze. Then he felt his whole body come alive, every cell awakening. He opened his eyes underwater. The light bent inside the water, golden rays dancing. The silence was absolute. He felt completely wrapped and safe, as if in a womb. When he surfaced, his breath was fast and steamy, but he was smiling. He was truly, literally revived. Elias watched him from the beach, nodding with satisfaction. "There," he said, "now you are reborn. The old Leo stayed in the lake. The one who came out is the new Leo." When he returned to shore, Leo was shivering, but it was a pleasant shiver. He put on his sweater, and a warm self-confidence filled him inside. On the way back, Elias told him about the lake's ecology, the fish, the birds, and how humans should respect this delicate balance. It wasn't just a transfer of knowledge. It was like handing over a trust. When they returned to the cabin, evening was approaching. Leo asked permission to light the wood stove. Elias agreed and watched him. Leo struck a match, passed the spark to small twigs, and slowly grew the flame. Even in this simple action, there was a kind of magic. The fire lit up the dark room and began to spread warmth. "Did you notice something?" asked Elias, looking at the fire.
What? Today you didn't think about your life in the city at all. Your emails, your messages, what you had to do, not at all. Leo was surprised. Elias was right. All day his mind had been completely here and now. Those old, painful thought cycles had been interrupted. That's what healing is, Elias said softly. It's getting your attention back. It's realizing that every moment exists only because you are there. That evening, Leo prepared his own meal, a simple soup from the mushrooms Elias showed him and wild mint he collected by the stream. They ate the meal together and didn't talk. They just listened to the crackle of the fire and each other's presence. As he got ready for bed, Elias went to the door. "I stay in the small cabin next to this one," he said. "Make yourself comfortable here. Tomorrow I'll give you the first real task of guardianship." "What task?" asked Leo excitedly. "You'll learn in the morning," Elias said mysteriously. "For now, listen to what the night brings you. Sometimes dreams speak in the lake's language." After Elias left, Leo continued to sit by the fire. He had found one of his grandfather's journals in his hand. He turned the pages. On one page there was a drawing. He had drawn Elias in profile, sitting on the guardian stone. Underneath it said, "Elias told me today that the lake is not just water, it is a memory. Every drop carries the story of every creature that passed through these mountains. The guardian is the listener of those stories. Maybe one day I can listen to a story too." Leo closed the journal and went to the window. The night was perfect again. The lake shone in the pale moonlight. And at that moment, on the lake, he saw a pale phosphorescent light walking on the water's surface. Only for a second, then it disappeared. He didn't know if it was a reflection, his imagination, or one of the stories Elias mentioned. But the lingering feeling was peace. He felt he was in the right place at the right time. He was walking in his grandfather's footsteps, and tomorrow would be a new beginning for him. When he lay in bed, his body felt the day's tiredness, but his mind was calm and clear. He closed his eyes and listened. The lake's sound filled the room like a lullaby, and this time, within that sound, he thought he heard his grandfather's faint whisper, "Welcome, Leo. I've been waiting for you to be here." Sleep pulled him in with soft but sure arms. His dreams were filled with silver fish and luminous waters, and a deep, regular heartbeat accompanied him.
Leo woke up before sunrise, before twilight had even fallen. Inside him was a sharp feeling that today would be different. He dressed quietly and went outside. The air was filled with that strange, still silence that comes before dawn. The lake was motionless like a lead sheet. He found Elias sitting by the guardian stone with a seriousness he hadn't seen before. Next to him was a small, leather-covered bag. When Leo sat beside him, Elias opened the bag and took out a crystal-clear stone the size of an egg. The stone contained frozen-looking air bubbles and tiny gold-colored moss particles. "This," said Elias, his voice more formal than ever, "is the Heartstone of Silver Lake. Legend says when the lake first formed, this was the first stone that rose from its center. All other stones came from it. The guardian's most important task is to protect this stone and maintain the connection with the lake through it." He carefully placed the stone in Leo's palms. The stone was surprisingly warm, like the body heat of a living being. "Your task today," Elias continued, "is to take this stone to the four corners of the lake and let it touch the water in each place so it can reconnect with the lake. To the northern Sycamore Cove, the eastern Waterfall Crack, the southern Mossy Cave, and the western Lone Pine Hill. At each stop, the stone will tell you something, and you will listen to it." Leo looked at the stone. Carrying something so valuable excited him, but also scared him. "What if something happens? What if I drop it?" "Then the stone goes where it wants to go," Elias said calmly. "But you won't drop it, because the stone has chosen you now. Your grandfather completed the same task. This is the first and most important test for a guardian candidate. The stone measures your intention, your respect, and your commitment. If your heart is not pure, the stone gets cold and its color fades. If you are ready, you begin the journey." Leo took a deep breath. "I'm ready." Elias nodded in approval. "Then go, return before the sun sets, and remember, this is not a task, it's a journey. Every step, every breath will be a part of it." Leo carefully placed the stone in his bag and started walking toward the first stop, the northern Sycamore Cove. The forest was waking up with the first lights of dawn. Today, his walk was very different. On his back, he carried not just a physical load, but a symbolic trust. With every step, he was more careful, more respectful. When he reached Sycamore Cove, the sun was just rising on the horizon. Here, giant sycamores rose even from within the water, their roots forming complex labyrinths underwater. Following Elias's instructions, he took out the stone and slowly placed it in the clear water among the roots. He held it lightly with his hand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the golden moss particles inside the stone began to glow faintly, and in Leo's mind, a clear feeling appeared: to take root. He understood how his grandfather had taken root here, how he had let go of his pain into the earth, how patience had slowly sprouted. When he took the stone out of the water, one of the roots had lightly touched it, as if placing a seal. The second stop was the eastern Waterfall Crack. To get here, he had to climb a steep slope. A small waterfall burst from between rocks and flowed directly into the lake. It was noisy and lively.
He held the stone in the small pool where the waterfall fell.
This time, the air bubbles inside the stone began to move, as if a storm was brewing inside it. The feeling was to let go. He saw how the water jumped from the rocks with enthusiasm, how it flowed downward into the unknown without hesitation. He felt he needed to let go of the things he held on to in his life: resentments, mistakes, pride. The waterfall's power was cleansing him. At noon, he reached the third stop, the southern mossy cave. This was a half cave just below lake level, filled with water. To enter, he had to bend down and walk in the water. When light filtered through the water into the cave, everything took on a greenish tone. The silence was almost oppressive. He placed the stone in the water at the deepest point of the cave. Here, the stone's heat dropped, emitting a cold, serene feeling. The feeling was depth. Like the unseen, hidden parts of the lake, he realized there were depths within himself he hadn't explored. The source of his fears and desires lay in these silent, dark depths, and he needed to learn not to fear these depths. Tired but strangely revitalized, he set off for the final stop, the western Lone Pine Hill. This was a high point overlooking the lake from above. When he arrived, the sun was heading west, starting to paint the horizon gold and red. From here, the entire silver lake sparkled like a jewel. He placed the stone in a hollow at the edge of the hill, in accumulated rainwater. This time, the stone didn't just emit warmth. Leo felt a light vibration in his palm, just like the lake's heartbeat he felt the first night. This final feeling was wholeness. From above, he saw how everything was connected, how the cove, the waterfall, the cave, and the hill were parts of the same body. He understood that the parts of his own life, joy and pain, success and loss, were also an inseparable whole. All of them were what made him him. When he took the stone out of the water, it was different now. The moss particles inside were more vibrant, the air bubbles more mobile, and the stone wasn't just warm, it seemed to beat rhythmically, synchronized with Leo's own heartbeat. As the sun caught the horizon line, Leo walked back toward the cabin. His legs ached, his back was sweaty, but his soul felt lighter and clearer. With every step, he felt the stones beating in his bag. When he reached the cabin, he found Elias on the dock, trying to carve something. He sat beside him and carefully opened the bag. He took out the heartstone and handed it to Elias. Elias took the stone, examined it carefully, and a broad, approving smile appeared on his face. "Brilliant," he said. "It has spoken to you. Its colors have deepened, its heat has harmonized with yours. Congratulations, Leo. You passed your first test." I felt something at each stop, taking root, letting go, depth, and wholeness. "The 4 basic lessons of the lake," Elias said, nodding. "Your grandfather learned the same lessons, but everyone hears them in their own language." He gave the stone back to Leo. "This is yours now. As a new guardian candidate, it is your task
to protect it and connect with the lake through it when needed. As Leo held the stone in his palm, a question bothered his mind. "But you, Elias, who are you really? Are you really here?" Elias's eyes got lost in the last reds over the lake. There was a long, deep silence. Then he began to speak in a very slow voice. "I am the memory of the first guardian, Leo. The first guardian came here centuries ago and devoted his life to the lake. When he died, his love and devotion were so strong that his spirit blended with this place. I am an echo of him and all the guardians who came after him, an image, a memory. The lake shapes me to guide new guardians. When your grandfather came, I appeared. When he left, I faded. When you came, I appeared again." Leo wasn't surprised to hear this explanation. Actually, he had always felt it was something like that. Elias carried a superhuman calm and wisdom. "So, are you a ghost?"
"No," Elias said softly. "A ghost is stuck in the past. I am an expression of the lake's present time. I am the intention of this place. I am the tradition of guardianship itself. Just as you inherited from your grandfather, he inherited something from me. And one day, you too will pass this tradition on to the right person." Leo digested this idea. It wasn't scary. It felt natural. "So what happens now? Will I stay here?" Elias shook his head. "No. Your task started here, but it won't end here. A guardian exists not to hide wisdom, but to share it. You will return to the city, but not like before, carrying the lake's calm, patience, and wholeness inside you. You will be a guardian there too. You will remind people of nature's language, slowing down, listening, maybe just with small things, by pointing out a flower, listening to a bird's song, watching a river flow." The sun was almost set now. Elias's image trembled slightly in the twilight, looking more transparent. "My time is running out, Leo. Your first cycle here is complete. I will rest until you no longer need me, but I will always be here, in the water, in the trees, in the stone's beat. Whenever you need me, just come here, listen, you will find me." Leo's eyes filled with tears. "Will I never see you again?" "You will see me every time," said Elias, his voice now as light as a wind whisper. "When the lake shines in the moonlight, when the morning fog rises, when a leaf falls into the water and makes circles, I will be there, and you will hear me better and better." Elias stood up. His shape was almost transparent now. Leo jumped to his feet too. "Thank you," he whispered, his throat tight, "for everything." Elias smiled one last time, his eyes shining like two bright stars. "It is I who thank you for carrying the tradition. Now go, Leo, and remember, a guardian is not just someone who protects a place, but someone who lives and tells its story. Live your story well." And then, slowly, like a fog curtain, Elias's shape dispersed. First the hands, then the face, finally those bright eyes. They all blended into the evening blue. There, only a slight coolness and the scent of sea buckthorn leaves remained. Leo stayed there on the dock, alone, for a long time. A few tears falling from his eyes mixed with the lake's waters.
But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude and completion. That night, Leo slept in the cabin for the last time. In the morning, he packed. Into his bag, he put a few of his grandfather's journals, the Heartstone, and a handful of pebbles he took from Silver Lake's shore. Before closing the door, he turned and looked one last time. Everything was in its place. But now, this cabin wasn't just a shelter for him. It was a temple, a place of transformation. He walked to the end of the dock. From his bag, he took out that dark gray, wavy-lined stone, the stone he had let go of that first morning. He threw it into the lake. This time, he didn't whisper anything, because he had no fear left to let go. He turned and started walking toward the forest, toward the city. His steps were not heavier now, but more determined. On his back, what he carried was much lighter physically, but the wisdom he carried in his soul was much more valuable. As he passed through the forest, he stopped and touched a tree. A bird sang above his head. The wind passed through the leaves, and he felt he understood their language, at least a little.
As he got closer to the city, the noise began to increase. But Leo protected that quiet center inside him. Silver Lake's heartbeat continued to beat lightly but constantly in the depths of his own heartbeat. When he saw the first buildings of the city, he stopped and looked back at the dense green of the forest. In the distance, he could imagine the shimmer of Silver Lake. Inside, he repeated Elias's last words. A guardian is not just someone who protects a place, but someone who lives and tells its story. He smiled. Now he knew what to do. He would return to the city with the story he carried. Maybe he would write, maybe draw, maybe just live. But with every breath, every step, he would spread Silver Lake's calm, patience, and wholeness. He took one last deep breath, filling his lungs with the forest's clean scent. Then he turned and continued walking toward the city. Ahead of him was his old life, but now he had new eyes to see that life. And behind him, Silver Lake, as always ancient, calm, and wise, continued to shine. It had raised a new guardian, and the cycle had once again completed perfectly. Months later, in his small apartment in the city, Leo sat by his window. On his desk, the Heartstone he brought from Silver Lake sat as a paperweight. On his computer, there was an article he was about to finish. The Guardian of Silver Lake, speaking with nature's language. Outside, it was raining, the city's sounds blurred. But Leo noticed a beam of light coming through the window, making the golden moss inside the stone on his desk glow. The stone was lightly, warmly warm. He smiled. In his heart, he felt that deep, regular beat. Far away, very far away, a lake shone in the moonlight and continued to whisper a guardian's story to the sleeping world. And everything was exactly as it should be.